Okay, Snow White. You know, I so often tell myself, like, don't touch the poop. Don't touch this thing that people are getting really unreasonably angry about. But my God, I had to see what all this was about because people are not okay when it comes to this movie. And on a level that I don't even think people are angry about, I get it. Like, these live action remakes are pretty fucking lazy. We've had a couple that are decent, but like half the time it just seems like Disney's using them to try to retcon mistakes of the past and doing it in like the laziest way possible. But most people seem to be avoiding it for a slew of different reasons. Like, we got a lot of people avoiding it because of Rachel Zegler, because of some comments she made about the original movie being dated and not respecting enough in their opinion, and you know, how her Snow White's not gonna fall or be all about a Prince Charming, which we will get to. It's not like that's completely absent from the story. When she was first cast, a lot of people were upset that she wasn't white, calling the prince in the original a stalker. And look, we can have the debate around healthy and unhealthy Disney tropes and stereotypes all day long, but I feel like the level of backlash there was probably a bit too high. I know there has been more ramping up recently, but I've just been trying to stay offline the past couple weeks. But regardless of why people are angry, they are angry. And look, there's obviously been things that I've been upset with how they've ended up being adapted. I like literally my Electric State video is how I'm like flabbergasted that that's the movie they came up with based on like the graphic novel it started from. They've, you know, not handled some things I've loved well lots of times in my lifetime, but I've never gotten this angry, and I've certainly not gotten mad at actors for the casting decisions of other people. Then you've got people that are avoiding it because of Gal Gadot, who I didn't even realize was in this movie until a week and a half ago, and that's definitely a choice they made, but yeah, there's a ton of drama around the casting of the Seven Dwarves and what they were going to choose to do with them, which I will talk about a little bit more later. And then the movie finally came out, and I'm here to report that, like, it's not good, but it's also not total trash. I was far more upset about Mufasa and fully willing to admit that that might be because I care about Lion King more than I care about Snow White. But I see what they're trying to do with this movie. I get some of the ideas that they're putting into it, the way that they're trying to like update it while still honoring aspects of that original story that was originally a like fable and grim fairy tale that like originated like from so long ago based on even like older stories that like different cultures have. It's one of those. It's been around for ages, to the point that the animated adaptation was already a modified version of the original story. With this movie, there are certainly aspects of it that are trash. There are choices that they make that are still very confusing to me, but I've definitely seen them do significantly worse. But overall, I just kind of find it to be a little bit boring. I do really like Rachel Zegler's voice. I think she's doing the best with what she's given here, but a lot of this just feels like they've handled it better with movies like Tangled and Frozen. So it just kind of feels unnecessary in the grand scheme of Disney stories to be telling it in the exact way that they're doing here. I think updating and shifting aspects of the story is fine if you feel like you have something to tell. I know some people want a shot-for-shot remake, but why bother? It really just feels like they're trying to chase that Disney Renaissance era without understanding like what got them into that position, which is kind of similar to what I'd say about Marvel right now. They are trying to get back to their high without doing the work that got them to that high in the first place. So I don't think stuff like this is going to get any better. I do think that the backlash towards this movie is excessive for what actually occurred, but that's where we're at. Obviously, some critics have not completely hated this to the point that I've seen people accusing people I know of being paid off, even when those reviews still include a fair amount of criticism, and I can assure you that Disney would rather pay influencers to be excited about the movie or just talk about the fact that it's coming out or pay them to go to red carpet events or like special like events at Disney than they would pay to have someone actively review it. So yeah, I've certainly not been paid for this lukewarm kind of compliment calling the movie boring, but who I have been paid by is today's sponsor, Kitsch. Now you guys know when I'm stressing out about something inconsequential in a movie, I'm going right for the hair. I'm going right for it. And it's pretty darn thin and lifeless to begin with, so that's why I'm so happy to have today's sponsor, Kitsch. So before Kitsch even reached out, I'd been on the hunt for a better shampoo. About a year ago, I feel like it started falling out more than it ever had before and was just getting weaker, so I wanted to work on that. And in comes Kitsch right off the bat. They have a rosemary and biotin option, which are ingredients always recommended for volume and strength, but they also have a rice water protein shampoo and conditioner to help with growth, strength, and balanced moisture. And one of my favorite parts as someone who travels, because I can just like break off a little chunk and take with me, it comes in solid bar form. You just hop in the shower and they lather right up, and then you can pair it with this scalp exfoliator and it just feels amazing. With Kitsch, each bar is under $11 or under $21 for the shampoo and conditioner combo. And it's already been making such a difference. Like I got baby hairs that have been coming in the last few months, which is just like great to see. So all that paired with a variety of accessories like the shower caddy or the self-draining dish to keep the bars nice and fresh, the bar bags that help you get that nice rich lather while also preserving the bar, Kitsch has something for everyone. So if you want to try out some new hair care for yourself, click the link in the description down below or use code Amanda at checkout to save 25% off your order. Alright, so Snow White, before going to the spoilers of what happens, what they've changed, what worked, what didn't, other than her hair looking pretty weird, which is actually intentional, the queen purposely gives her an ugly haircut so she is less beautiful, which makes sense if you're concerned about someone else being deemed the fairest of them all. You're gonna try to cut that off anywhere you can. But yeah, I do like Rachel Zegler. I've only ever seen her in that Hunger Games prequel that I talked about and the movie Y2K, but I really liked her in both of those movies. I'd like to think that regardless of what you think of the statements she's made, you can realize that she's a very good singer, and obviously that matters when you have a musical-infused movie like this. It does make a difference if you feel like the person can actually sing. So when you have someone like that who's been in a Spielberg movie and West Side Story, who's done a lot of singing in the Hunger Games, I can see why you'd want to probably get her in as a Disney princess, you know? If you don't have to pay a bunch of money to do more to her voice, that's a net positive for you. They will then waste that net positive by having Gal Gadot sing, but you know, I get it. And like I said, I think she does well enough with what she's been given in this movie acting-wise. Certainly not what I'd call the best of her catalog, but it's nowhere near as bad as some people are trying to make it seem. And for those who are concerned that they completely pulled out those traditional values, don't worry, like this movie kind of starts with her cooking, and she's still gonna do a lot of cleaning, you know? There's a whole dedicated song to her cleaning. As mentioned, the romantic interest is still very present in the story, regardless of what Rachel said in interviews that really pissed people off, but he is a lot more like Flynn Rider from Tangled than a Prince Charming. He's got that like Robin Hood energy in him, which I'm totally cool with. I think it's a fun change, but I think if you're already going to change the character, you can make him a little bit more unique to himself. Like at this point, it just kind of feels like Disney is cosplaying themselves to get over critiques of the past instead of like, I don't know, just focusing on making a good movie? But I appreciate them bolstering up the relationship between the two, because the original is literally just like, oh wow, what a lovely girl with a lovely voice. What a handsome fella. Bing bang boom, she's dead in a coffin a year later and he's sending her off with a kiss. I think it's okay to say that that isn't true love and just kind of bad character development. Gal Gadot as the evil stepmother is pretty bad, as you can probably imagine. Like I said, I thought she was good in that first Wonder Woman movie because she was supposed to have that like fish out of water vibe, but then I think we all realized that that's just the only way she knows how to act, and just lucked out that that was the first big role she got. She doesn't play evil so much as just smug. Like she's just got this incredibly stilted dialogue, smug expressions. It almost feels like she's kind of like parodying herself. It just feels weird.
I know her.
I think you mean new.
As alluded to, the dwarves are the thing of fucking nightmares. Literally no exaggeration. I had a dream last night that Sleepy was trying to kill me with a pickaxe while my ex was laughing in the background. Unpleasant. So let's get through some of that plot stuff and the changes, so that means spoilers. Just know that if you're remotely interested in this movie, you know, feel free to see it if you want. Disney does not need your help and encouragement here. You can just wait for it to end up on Disney Plus if you already have that. Or just like wait for cheap night. Again, I think your kids can find better movies to watch. There's probably better things to watch with your family if that's what you're interested in. But you know, if your kid's really into Snow White, if they're really into Disney princesses, there's no reason not to take your kid to see this movie. But yeah, we start off pretty standard Snow White. We got an evil stepmother obsessed with vanity and being the most beautiful person in the world. I do actually feel like they could focus on that a little bit more in this story. It seems like she's more into power and like nice things and diamonds and jewels than it is specifically her own vanity, which I think they could have focused on in the story a little bit more, because you can do that well and you can do that very intelligently to modernize the story. But whatever, because she's concerned that she might lose that, she hides her stepdaughter away, who is Snow White, before ordering her death when the magic mirror deems Snow White to be the fairest of them all. You know the story, I assume. But instead of the movie just picking up with her working as a maid on the queen's orders, this Snow White, you know, shows some of her time as a kid with her parents, the king and queen, who were very benevolent rulers. Everybody was very prosperous and happy, and they were raising Snow White to be fearless, fair, brave, and true. They even have a necklace that reminds her of these things. Sounds like a B-side track from an early Taylor Swift album, but I digress. And I really don't mind this change. Like I said, maybe it's been overdone, especially in some of those more modern Disney stories, but it shows she cares about the people of the town. Her and her mother are baking them pies. Maybe some of it's a little bit like, well, let them eat cake. Of course the people are happy. We're making them apple pie. But then the mom dies. which makes way for the evil stepmother who seems nice and magical at first. She worms her way into the hearts of all, but quickly turns cruel when Snow White's father goes missing in battle. And it's pretty obvious that she likely had something to do with that. So now the people of the town are extremely poor, or they've been conscripted into the Queen's Guard as Snow White is made a servant and locked away, singing songs about wishing to be as strong as her parents were, wondering if she'll ever live up to what she wants to be, or will she just spend her days wishing for change. So that's setting up for a character growth here. Will she be able to take that step to make that change? Can she take that kindness and be brave with it and take it to the next level? All things that I think are good. I think kids are oftentimes presented with things that are easy and things that are hard, and oftentimes the hard thing is what people need to do to be better, to be a good person, to stand up for what's right. It's standard fairy tale lore, a modernized fairy tale lore for children. It's fine. It's good. It's great. And still with that core Snow White quality of kindness, something we can all work on. So instead of a Prince Charming coming along and falling in love with her singing and having that love at first sight moment, Snow White catches a bandit named Jonathan stealing from the pantry. And he's not even bothered that he got caught. He's like, you know what? Do what you have to do, but people are in need. He is loyal to the one true king and not the queen. Very much this Robin Hood stealing from the rich to give to the needy and poor, or at least his own band of bandits, who we will meet. He has a band of bandits. One guess how many bandits he has? It's 7. But unfortunately, the queen ends up catching him stealing, and regardless of Snow White's pleas of mercy and to be fair, that people are hungry, can't we help them, she orders him shackled to the gates and says, you know, we can't give people nice things. It'll leave them wanting more. It confuses them if we give them nice things. They need to understand their place.
You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
I don't know why Snow White even bothered at this point, because it's been years of this behavior, so if she genuinely thinks this woman has any chance at being good, she's a little bit dumb. But Snow White knows this isn't right. She frees Jonathan, sends him off with a piece of bread, which leads the mirror to deem her the fairest of them all. Because remember, guys, it's what's inside that matters. They can give you a messed up bob and you're still gonna be prettier inside. But because the queen can't handle this, she hires her huntsman to take Snow White out into the woods and kill her. But just like the original, the huntsman is moved by Snow White's kindness and fairness and just can't do it. And instead urges her to run away into the woods, where she stumbles through a gallows-style nightmare before stumbling upon a group of CGI monstrosities. And no, I don't even mean the dwarfs at this point. I mean the animals. They are also unsettling. I don't know if I've seen anyone mention that. These things are creepy. Like, this deer's trying to guide her on, and I'm like, don't follow that deer. That is evil. Yeah, then the dwarves do get home, and holy shit, we just have to deal with these nightmares. Again, just so many nightmares of their plasticky, waxy little faces. Now, there was a ton of drama around these guys before any images even dropped. Drama that Disney screwed up at every turn, because, again, they don't care so much about making good movies or like actually making any kind of change or caring about different people. They want to create profit vessels. So when their attempts not to be controversial and piss off the least amount of people, they got right in there. Basically, Peter Dinklage, famed actor of Tyrion Lannister, came out saying that Disney even going at the story of 7 Dwarves was backwards. Even though, honestly, I just always saw the dwarves in Snow White as magical human-like characters, not actual people with dwarfism. But obviously, when it comes to casting, that opens up some issues. Like, do you cast people with dwarfism and give them opportunities to break into the industry, or is that playing into negative stereotypes and like kind of locking them in a box of what they're qualified to do? That was kind of like Peter Dinklage's point, is that it was very regressive, specifically because of the stereotypes that those dwarves fall into, not just because they'd be casting actors with dwarfism. And I know that Disney said that they specifically consulted with actors who have dwarfism to avoid reinforcing negative stereotypes, because I do understand why getting a bunch of people with dwarfism to run around acting like, you know, dopey idiots the way they have the dwarves act in the original movie would be a little bit regressive. But the alternative is either casting actors without dwarfism, which is what Snow White and the Huntsman did, which ended up getting them a lot of criticism there. So then you get the criticism of not hiring people who could have had breakout roles in a Disney movie, and it just becomes a very confusing situation that, like, no matter what you do, someone's probably going to be upset. So instead, they just kind of did all of the above. They decided to concoct the most waxy, plastic-looking CGI dwarves you could possibly imagine. Like, there was no reason, even from a CGI standpoint, for them to look this way. I get if you're just kind of like, we just want to bypass that. We just want these things to look like they did in the original animated movie, without fully understanding that you can't really capture stuff like that with something looking real life. You get, it just looks horrifying in so many situations. But then you get to have them act the same way they did in that 1937 version, which they clearly wanted, but then other than grumpy, have them all voiced by actors without dwarfism. So now no one's really happy, and I do understand every part of that argument of like, okay, well, if these aren't supposed to actually be people with dwarfisms, they're supposed to be like these magical beings. But you could have given some people new opportunities in acting roles if you had used actual people with like, I don't know, prosthetics or different things like a lot of other movies have done, and instead they did this. So again, no one's happy, least of all me. Again, in my dreams, the waxy skin, the axes, they're everywhere. Like, it's bad. If you're already going through nightmares and then these things start infiltrating them, you just don't feel okay anymore. We do get the iconic Hi-Ho song, which is honestly the only one I actually remember from the original movie. I didn't really love it here. It seemed fine, but something seemed off about it. And I think it's because they don't actually know how to whistle yet. They have to wait for Snow White to teach them how to whistle, which I thought was weird. But whatever, after some hijinks, they do offer to hide Snow White from the Queen, and because there's a storm rolling in, she agrees to stay the night. So again, they are maintaining a lot of their hijinks, but they flip things up. So we do still get that song about like whistle while you work and cleaning, but instead, the dwarves have to help clean too. You know? It's like she will teach the dwarves how to fish so they will be able to clean their own home. That's not, you get what I mean by that analogy. She makes them clean with her so they can be better. Which leads us into the Queen's song when she realizes that Snow White is still alive and the huntsman's like begging her to have like mercy on her. And oh no, she really cannot sing, which I guess we already knew from 5 years ago.
Imagine there's...
Holy shit, that was 5 years ago. And I'm just mystified by all of this. Like, I get the script isn't doing her any favors, but she is not nailing any of this performance. It's feeling very local theater or intentional parody. And again, this song seems to tie that vanity not so much into her appearance, but into like the power she has and like her love of nice things, which can be part of it, but I just think they really needed to focus in on that idea of beauty and the beauty she really feels like she is, even though she's so ugly inside. Whatever, the next day, Snow White heads off trying to find out what happened to her father, where she once again runs into Jonathan, the dashing thief who, while loyal to the king, has no idea where he is. So let's talk about the dynamic with that little rapscallion. You know, like they have some fun here with him being like, clearly you've mistaken me for a knight in shining armor, tee-hee, ha-ha. But he starts calling her out on just trying to find someone else to fix the problem instead of like stepping into her rightful role as princess and kind of heir to this throne and trying to fix the problems herself. That people don't have time to hope anymore, let alone be kind and fair when survival's the thing on the line. And it's a cute little song here. They got fun banter, just stuff we've seen done better in other Disney movies. Either way, they are setting up for the grand romance here. Very cute when his band of rebels pop out of the woods, and again, there are 7 of them. One of whom is an actor with dwarfism, and I get it, it is giving an actor with dwarfism a role that isn't defined by stereotypes, which I believe was the point Peter Dinklage was trying to make. I don't think he was intentionally trying to lose other people out on their jobs, but it did end up leaving people scratching their heads of the entire like hullabaloo that happened around the dwarves originally. And we're also just confused as to why there's just this second band of 7 people. Like, okay, whatever, the real guards find them amongst all this singing, and she manages to trick them with the help of some lovely woodland creatures. And it seems like they're clear from the danger before Jonathan takes an arrow for her, showing that maybe he's not as selfish as he first seemed. Might not all be about his own survival. So they rush him to the dwarves. Doc manages to apply his mining doctorate to a human, and everyone's learning to care about one another more, which the queen took away from them. And again, I get that they wanted to make these changes, and I do think that like kindness and compassion was a part of the original story, like the friendship and community and people standing up for one another. Obviously, like the dwarves welcome her into their home and they protect her and they care. So I do think that was a theme of the original movie, but they really do gut out so much of that vanity side of the queen so they can focus more on this like Snow White going and taking her rightful place as leader over an evil usurper, which I feel like, again, we have so many of those stories that have been done significantly better than this. So I definitely think there was just ways to tell the story in a more unique way. Back to the gang, Snow White is realizing that Jonathan actually cares for her, and he's got to realize that after taking a little arrow for her, he kind of cares for her too. So they're really working to get that romance to the next level. He's even starting to be moved by her optimism. She literally goes slow-mo in his vision while she's dancing. Like, that's how you know it's real. Ooh, maybe I'll record a video in a single sitting again, but for now, the struggle bus continues. Fun fact, though, before we continue on, this Snow White is directed by the same guy who directed this Amazing Spider-Man movie, and also 500 Days of Summer. What the fuck are you doing here, man? At some point, it just doesn't feel good to say, get the bag, king. Onto the movie, though, that leads to this dummy getting caught by the Queen's Guard after Snow White gave him her necklace the Queen absolutely knows about, meaning that if he gets caught, she'll absolutely know that they were in direct communication. And yeah, we don't even have to wait more than like 5 minutes for that to come to fruition. The Queen knows they were together, and even though he doesn't say anything, just based on where they found him in the woods, she like triangulates the location of the dwarf's house. And I don't know, she's got this like magic vulture thing. So at this point, they've already showed us the poison apple that she has like locked in a little chest for special occasions, I guess. And now we get to see her concoct the potion that makes her like old and decrepit. It says it's taking away all of her beauty and youth, but why do I feel like it's actually just like making her insides reflect her outsides? Now I always remember thinking like, why didn't she just kill her? At this point, she's tried to get like so many different people just to kill Snow White, but then I remember she wants everybody to think she's dead, so they bury her alive. So you get the full scope of everybody who cares about her finding her and seeing her and having to grieve over her and then burying her, and then who knows, maybe years down the line she would have been like, she wasn't even dead and now she is because you buried her into the ground. I have no idea what's going on with my voice right now, but you know, it's fine. But as always, the cure to the sleeping curse is true love's kiss, and with Jonathan locked up, I guess Queen just thinks that's unlikely to happen. So all the animals know what is about to happen and they rush off to try to get the dwarves to come back to save her, even though they could just swarm the witch or something. I don't know. Snow White takes a bite of the apple and succumbs to the effects. But not before the Queen can deliver her evil little speech about how Snow White's father's goodness is what cost him his throne and his life, just as it's about to cost her hers. And yes, very sad, they all come back, think she's dead. Don't bury her right away. They want to honor her a little bit. And you know, just because Jonathan is down doesn't mean he's out. He's scrappy and resourceful. So he manages to get the huntsman, who's also locked up with him, back on board about how Snow White is worth fighting for because she never gave up on anyone and stuck around even when it put her at risk, so now they have to save her. So the two manage to escape pretty easy, just a little bit of team effort, and Jonathan rushes off to find Snow White. And just as we're all expecting just a little peck from this guy is all it takes to wake her up to just cancel out this curse, and then they make sure to let them kiss for real. So you're like, yo, just because he just kind of snuck in there without asking, she would have consented. I can't remember if it was actually the Disney movie that added the kiss. I just know in the original Grimm fairy tale, isn't it just that like a piece of the apple is lodged in her throat, and like once it gets dislodged, she wakes up when the prince has just been like carting her corpse around for a while? Why didn't anybody question why it wasn't rotting? But yeah, I guess someone somewhere along the line wanted to make it a little bit more romantic or something. And then this movie just gets goofy, and like not in the way that it's already been goofy, but you know, see, this Snow White was born on the day of a massive snowstorm. A snowstorm that, like, we're actually dealing with a snowstorm right now, and I don't much like it. And that's how she got her name. Her parents named her Snow White for, like, the resilience that she had in the face of crazy weather. I don't think I know what I'm saying anymore, but we're just gonna keep going. And in this moment, after she's been awoken by Jonathan, a single snowflake descends from the sky and reminds her that she has the inner strength to take back her kingdom. As if it's a message from, I don't even fucking know. So yeah, that's what's happening now. And that whole curse, barely anything. Barely an inconvenience. Where's that guy? He's probably already done this and he's probably already said that. But yeah, it was nothing. There was no struggle anywhere. Even in the original Disney movie, wasn't it like a year before they managed to wake her up? Also, I know that when it still comes down to like the true love kiss, everyone was like, well, so much for everything she said. You know, she still did have to get saved by a man. But I get what they mean. It's not like they meet in the beginning because she's singing and just fall in love from like first sight and there's no deeper anything going on there. The focus of this version of the story is that like her maintaining her kindness is what's going to allow her to take back her parents' kingdom. You know, she's going to find strength in herself in that kindness and goodness, and that's not just going to be like a reflection of, you know, finding love. Not that the power of love isn't important. I feel like that's still a theme here. It's clearly not to the same level. I get what Rachel was trying to say. She said a little bit harshly, obviously upset some people, but they clearly were not going to change the story that much. And who knows, maybe there was a bunch of rewrites and there was never an apple and this poisoning thing never happens. But I just like, how do you not have Snow White without the apple and the poisoning? But whatever, they do try to make this moment bigger than the little fluff it's been so far by having Dopey finally speak. Like, her bravery and kindness encouraged him and gave him the courage to do so. So that's a change from the original, and I don't know if I much like it because he looks so creepy. It's just the uncanny valley nature of it. It's like you went into Skyrim and just started messing with the sliders, so everything's just distorted and a little bit weird, and I just don't like it. Whatever, she faces off with the queen, who basically says that the people don't want kindness when she can offer them perfection and power. Which, not much good for their broke asses. Who cares if she's protecting them when she's the one they need protection from? And the acting here is really something. Like, I feel like the dialogue is doing no one any favors, including Rachel, but my God, Gal Gadot, why? Didn't you just start speaking crystal daggers out of thin air? Like, we got full-on alchemy going on here. And the story tries to do one of those, like, look, she's gonna be too weak to do what needs to be done. And she gives the dagger to Snow White. And she's like, look, if you want to rule, you gotta kill me. But even with the threat of death, Snow White will not kill the queen. So the queen orders the guards to kill her in front of the town so they learn what happens when you question her. Which is when Snow White wins them with kindness. She remembers who all these guards were before they were employed here, who they used to be, the kind acts they used to spread and share amongst the other villagers with food and joy and laughter. And just like that, they're no longer loyal to the queen. They realize the mistakes they've made. They realize that this is their chance to not be living miserable lives anymore. So then the bitch's gotta take things into her own hands. She lunges at Snow White herself with that crystal dagger thing, but then is thwarted by the rebel Quig and his crossbow. See? Disney cares. He gets a whole moment to himself. But this just leads to the queen instantly giving up because the dwarves are behind her in the castle. Like, what the hell are they gonna do? She can conjure weapons. But then I really feel like someone on the writing team was doing us a little bit of a solid, because they just have her yell out, "No!" and run away. And that's already the word she said in a different movie that we clown on the most. Kalel, no. So there's much more emotion here, but it's still not good. Because then she just runs up the stairs to the mirror to try to confirm that she's still the fairest of them all, as if that's what matters in this moment. It makes no sense to me. Like, the progression of events makes no sense to me. Like, why couldn't they have had the arrow hit her cheek first and then knock the thing out of her hand, so she'd be like, oh my god, my face, my perfect face, what's happening, I need to go see. That would make sense. For me, there's no reason why she ran away. She knows magic. She can do all sorts of crazy things. Why didn't she go ultra bitch down there? Give us an actual direct reason for her to be freaking out so much, and it just feels like we're speed running the conclusion. Honestly though, what a terrible job they did with her as a villain. This sucks. Not as bad as what they did with Scar, but I just don't understand this. But yeah, she goes to the mirror, and of course it says, yeah, you're pretty, but it's skin deep, bitch. Snow White is the fairest of them all. So in a fit of rage, she smashes the mirror with some magic staff or something, and that kills her. No real explanation here if the reason why she's maintained beauty is some kind of magical connection with this otherworldly mirror thing. But yeah, she just rots away like dust and gets sucked into the mirror before it magically repairs itself. But now that the face is gone, as if that's all been sucked into some netherworld. And that just sucks. The one thing I was really looking forward to was getting to witness her horrible demise in the animated movie. Look guys, I get you want to update some of the stuff from your past movies to change, because times have changed. You want to update a couple things, but that does not mean sugarcoating the villain deaths. Let that stuff play out, because this is worse than when they had Voldy dissipate instead of just slumping over like any other corpse in Harry Potter. And yeah, that's really just the end of the movie. The town pledges their loyalty to Snow White. She and Jonathan get married down the line, and this whole thing was Dopey telling the story of their love at the wedding. I also think it's hilarious that her wedding dress is literally just the same dress she's been wearing the entire movie, but just in all white. But she still does have the horrible hair, making it seem like it was less of a choice by the evil queen and just what she wants. But whatever, we're done. No more thoughts. So yeah, Snow White, not terrible, just pretty bland, kind of forgettable, not something I'm ever gonna go out of my way to watch again. But to be fair, I also probably wouldn't go out of my way to watch the original Snow White very much either. But at this point, I just feel like Disney's done these stories better, and they've updated a lot of these stories in better ways. I do like that Snow White manages to get the kingdom back with her kindness and goodness, that her beauty and fairness is something that comes from within and spreads to the people around her. And that's the difference over strength and power. I just need to see a little bit more of that envy out of the queen, and not just smugness of her being oh, this is dirt beneath my feet, get rid of her so I can be the fairest. They could and should have done so much more with that. I really just don't know. It really could just be this thing where they got so focused in one direction that it made them like lose sight over here. But let me know what you guys are thinking, because as always, I'm just another internet idiot weighing in on a children's movie. If you really hated this movie, I also totally get that. If someday they try to do some kind of weird live action Toy Story movie, it would be some kind of Lovecraftian horror in my mind is all I'm thinking. I would probably also be pretty upset if I felt they ruined an aspect of it that I really enjoyed. From an animation standpoint, I think it's very impressive, but from a story standpoint, I actually think that Snow White was kind of ripe for some kind of modernization while still being able to tell those like core themes. I really just wish that Disney was making these movies with better intentions, and that would probably result in better movies. I get that any kind of big company like this is going to be making movies with the intention of making a profit, but I think you can do both. I think you can care about profits while also caring about making something good, because that should just make you more profit in the long run. But I don't know. I can't stop rambling. That is going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. I don't even know if I'm mostly okay. We'll catch you all later.